Okay, for our second one, we have another question over here. For each relation below, determine whether the relation is a function, and make sure you justify your answer, and then identify the domain and range for each relation. Great, let's start with our first one over here. Let's start with A. Now, for this one, we have to determine whether this is going to be a function. So I'm actually just going to rewrite it out for myself, just so that I can see it a little better, a little more clear, and point some things out for it. So we got a 2, 8. 3 and 27, and it's easy to kind of tell if something is going to be a function or just a relation just by kind of looking at the aspects. Once again, I just want to kind of point out some important parts. I am starting my ordered pairs out with a brace, so like those like curly set of brackets, and finishing them off with it. I'm also separating each x and y coordinate by a comma in each of these 4 entries. And then finally, I'm actually separating all of my entries by a comma as well. So make sure that you do know our proper form of doing this, because that is very important when we're moving forward with mathematics. Okay, so basically, let's go ahead and answer the first question, whether it's a function or not. Now, the only thing that we have to worry about whether something is a function is all depending on if a single x value has more than one y value associated with it. It's kind of like 1x to 1y that we have to think of. So as long as only this x coordinate of 1 only has 1 to go with it, or some other number, and there's no other entries that have the same x coordinate, we're all good. So I would see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all different. And they all correspond to some different y value. So at that point, we can say that this is in fact a function. This is a function. Oh, let's spell it right. Function, since no repeated x values. There's no repeated x values, okay? Every single x value has a different y value associated with it, okay? So that's easy. Let's go ahead and let's do domain and range for this one. So again, make sure that we're representing this in proper notation. We're going to say that our domain, and we're going to open up another set of braces here, and we are going to just pick off all of the x coordinates when we're listing here. However, since they're not a point, we do not use xy point notation. We just simply say it's 1, 2, and we keep on going up in ascending order, and we cap it off. We'll do range right afterwards. No, we don't need a comma there. Commas doesn't mean anything there. But we will do the range. And again, open up our set of braces. And once again, we'll just list off all of the y values that correspond to these x values. So I would go 1, 8, 27, and 64. I'm not too worried about the order in which case you do the range in. I would just like you to represent the order of domain in ascending order. Range should be also in ascending order. We'll talk a little bit more about that for discrete values, but just keep on going in ascending order, the same kind of pattern that you did it with the range. Okay, so that was A. Let's go on and do B. So once again for B, I'm just going to rewrite it for myself. We got 3, 4. And we're actually going to be doing exactly the same question. So answering the same ones that I did from the before for letter A. We're going to do it for B. Go figure, right? So there we go. Braces. We got everything going on. Good commas. And immediately we can just say that this is not going to be a function. We have the value of 3 repeated. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The value of 3 is repeated, each with a different y coordinate. This cannot be a function because we have repeated x values. So I will say this is just a relation. And the reason is since there is, what did I say? Repeated x values. Now, if I were to go ahead and graph this, and we'll take a look at this later, another reason I could say that this is just a function is that it actually is going to fail the vertical line test. We'll talk about that later on. Fails vertical line test, whereas this one passes. If you're wondering what that is, I can just plot these out on a graph and just kind of see if you can figure out what a vertical line test really means, and why this one would pass and why this one would fail. But we will talk about that a little later on. But that would be another completely valid reason to say that this is a function, because it passes the VLT, and this is just a relation since it fails the VLT. Regardless, we are still going to answer domain and range. You don't just have to be a function to be able to give a domain and range. However, it's very, very easy for the domain on this one, since it's literally just 3. There is absolutely no other x value listed in our relation, so that's the only one. For the range, we just have to keep on going. As you can see, the values, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that would be it for that. So definitely a function, no repeated x values, or it passes that VLT. And our second one is a relation, since there is repeated values, and that fails the VLT. And domain and range are listed for both of them.